everybody, happy Friday night. My name is Elise and welcome to my tea table. Let's get the stream started. Today, like every other Friday, this year I am doing Best Life Friday, where we do a deep dive into a topic that may help us find us on the path towards our best life. And so today we're talking about water. I haven't talked about water yet, and so I figured a good topic to go over a little bit of water appreciation. I didn't really start appreciating water until I was an adult, specifically until I was in the Peace Corps. Yeah, because I feel like we're in a state where it's so easy to take water for granted. Yeah, it's easy. And we'll learn today why, because water has just become like a common public service for the Western world, especially here in the United States. Of course, there are issues around, the quality of our water and the sustainability of our water access. But we're not going to talk about that too much today. If you want to talk about that, we can. I more just want to talk about like taking it back to the roots. As you see here on the stream behind me, this is water being pulled from a well, which is like the real OG way of getting access to water, which is very resource consuming, but then also very rewarding. And that was when I first learned about my appreciation for water. When I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Niger, West Africa, I lived in a small village in the middle of nowhere, and the only water access we had was through a well that was about 80 or so feet deep. And we had to throw a little bucket in on the string and pull it up, and then carry a bucket on the head back to the house. So, with all that labor involved to get the water, and then this was the desert. This was the Sahel, which is right below the Sahara Desert. So water access is not abundant, which, makes you appreciate it even more. So like every cup of water was highly accounted for. It was so delicious. It was so valuable. It was so precious. Something that I was not accustomed to growing up. And even now I find myself taking water for granted. So I want to take it back to the roots so that we can kind of see what the evolution of humanity is as we gain access to water, and then maybe look a little bit into kind of the political concerns about how we improve our access to water. And all this information is coming from articles, peer-reviewed articles that I found through Google Scholar. So these aren't just like blogs or normal news articles that we'll be looking at. But first, before we dive into that, I'm gonna brew some tea. Let's enjoy some tea. And feel free to say hello. Let me know how you're doing this weekend. How was your week? Did you have a nice week? I had a good week. I had a pretty productive week. It's a relative term, right? I don't know how productive it was, but feel productive to be here with you all today and talking about our love and appreciation of water. Yeah, this is actually my tea display dish now. This is a dish. My friends, they opened this business here in Vegas. I'm based in Las Vegas, Nevada. And you go to their studio. It's like an art studio, and they have all of these like plain unglazed ceramic forms, from cups, which they do have teacups, small, Chinese style, maybe a little bit bigger than this, a little deeper than this cup, but Chinese style teacups, little bowls, plates, figurines that you can you paint. They have all the paints and make it very easy, and it's kind of a fun social thing to do with your friends. They have all these tables laid out. Let's see, I'm playing with filters here. So I saw this. This was intended to be a business card holder. It's like the perfect size to put business cards in it. But I saw this, and this just like, it reminded me, first of all, of the Twitch logo. So I was like, it's got to be purple. And by the way, we are on Twitch, so if you want to join a more interactive, more rich experience, feel free to join us on Twitch. Actually, just tlet.tv, or you can go to that link there. Twitch.tv/tlet. Yeah, feel free to join us there. So, but then this is an homage to like all the silly memes on TikTok right now. I thought this was just great, and it looks just perfect, you know, because it is. This is the tea. The tea is there. Speaking of, I gotta put my tea there. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, so this is a second flush Darjeeling. Very rich muscatel aroma character to it, which is, you know, it's not always necessary with Darjeeling, but that's kind of the character of the terroir that the market has come to appreciate from Darjeeling tea. Closer look. Little bit of a broken grade. It's not the highest full leaf grade that we have available from this producer. The name of the producer is Yankee Tea Factory, headed by Yonghu Tamang, badass of Darjeeling tea. Let's start out by warming up all the wares with our water, precious, cherished, beautiful water. You know, I live in Las Vegas, which is one of the few places in the US where everybody develops a very strong relationship in water. And frankly, that's because we don't have good quality water. We do have access to water. We do have piped tap water, you know, at the minimum, but it's almost undrinkable. Like in the case of an absolute emergency, you can drink the water in Vegas, but I don't recommend it. How do I prep my water before tea? Okay, so the water, so I'm telling you, the water here in Vegas is not good. So, you know, a lot of people live in places where they can just fill their kettle with water from the tap. That's like, you can't do that here in Vegas. It's too hard, it's too alkaline, it doesn't brew well for tea, it doesn't taste good on its own, either way. But like I said, if it's an emergency, like the water is clean. It's, what's the word, potable, but it's not palatable. It's not good. And so the water that I use here in my tea room and at my house for my own consumption is coming from one of our local like water softening companies. They have a system, a pretty big system set up, but they mostly sell water softening systems to private residences and businesses to soften the water. But they have like multiple RO systems, several different charcoal filters that the water goes through, and then they do remineralize the water there with the right minerals to not make the water hard again. I found this water to be the most tasty. It's probably not the most ideal in tea brewing. You know, there's the most ideal, of course, and I'm gonna talk about this a little bit later in the stream, but the most ideal water is spring water. And then the most ideal spring water is the spring water from where the tea came. So, you know, if this is coming from, you know, someplace in China, you ideally would want to find, you know, water coming from that spring to brew your tea, but that is completely inefficient and you know, just unattainable. So I don't really like to talk about that much, but you know, it is good to note that you know, if you do have the opportunity to travel to China and get access to the spring water, I don't know. It's not scientifically correct, Eric, because frankly, no one's done that scientific research on that. You know, and it's funny because in China, there is a pretty rich academic community around tea. And that I've never, I mean, maybe it has been studied and it has been published and just not translated to English. That could be the issue. But I kind of feel like that is information for the Chinese tea world that they've already assumed to be correct. Like even academics have already assumed that to be correct, because the first person that made that declaration is Lu Yu. Lu Yu is known for being the first tea master. I don't know if I'd necessarily call him a tea master. He was like a master of tea connoisseurship in 700s, in the 700s. So this is like 1600 years ago. Wait, no, like 1200 years ago. What is this? Like 1400 years ago? 14 or 1300 years ago. So it was a long time ago. And he wrote a book called The Classic of Tea, which I just came up with the idea today because I was freaking looking online for like a PDF version or some type of digital version of this book, which is the first book ever written on tea. It's referenced so many times. I've heard it referenced so many times. The figure of Lu Yu as like a tea academic, a tea master, is like foundational to tea culture. He's kind of godfather of tea culture, the first one to like document it and make it a thing, because prior to that, tea was really an obscure thing that was really like only produced and consumed by a very niche community of people. Specifically, from what I've learned, you know, the indigenous people that had the relationship with the tea plant already, as well as monks. Because yeah, by this point, wait, no, tea had not gone to Japan just yet. It was about to make its way to Japan, but at that time it was highly popular among monasteries. They were growing it there and drinking it there as a meditation tool. But then it started to trickle into aristocracy, and that's kind of when Lu Yu got in there. But he made that that claim that the best water is from the spring, and he did all these kinds of experiments. I haven't done those. I just like, even though I'm a scientist and I like reading about those kinds of experiments, I don't really like setting them up and doing them. So I haven't done one. I've known people to do those types of, Eric, you're the type to want to do one of those kinds of you're the type to do those types of experiments, to, you know, get all the different types of water, you know, the different brands of water, you know, and then taste different teas with them and see if the water changes the quality of the tea, which is totally valid. You haven't done it in a while, but you've done it. I never done it, period. It's just not something that interests me. And here's the tea, beautiful second flush Darjeeling tea. The name of this tea is Vangeti Peko. Beautiful, rich, malty, but then also pretty clean and light in its brew as well. I'm just like, personally, I'm not inspired by doing the work behind a tea experiment. I like sampling tea, I like tasting teas, I like, you know, sitting in that experience and trying to conceptualize what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing. And especially if I'm able to share that feedback to the producer of that tea, so it can become a productive part of their tea mastery. I'm into that. I will invest my time and my life into that, but you got lazy. Maybe that's it. Maybe I got lazy too. Yeah, I'm just not inspired by it, you know, and I think maybe we should stop using the word lazy. I've seen you be not lazy about things before, but then at the same time we can be lazy, myself included, but like it's just because we're not fucking inspired by it. We're not motivated. The same argument can be said about our current, labor shortage. The business owners and the politicians are saying, well, at least the conservative politicians are saying that the labor force is lazy and they don't want to like get off unemployment, and it's not that. No one likes to be lazy. It's boring as fuck. Like, you eventually want to do something. So I think it's just they're not inspired by what's being offered through labor. Yeah, that's good tea. Nice and malty. You only use lazy for yourself. Well, you're not lazy, Eric. You're just uninspired. Think about it that way. When you think about it that way, you may find yourself less and less lazy. Don't be a fuddy-duddy. Don't be a fuddy-duddy. But from what I have heard from people doing experiments on different brands of tea, is that like the highest priced brands that you would think are, the highest value that would yield the best results, it's not always necessarily that way. So like something like Fiji water, you may think, oh wow, that's got to be the best one, that's expensive, that's a good water that people like, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best one for what you're trying to do. And, just like what I said, the best water is the spring water from where the tea comes from, and that's because the water is going to match the minerality of the soil in which the tea grew. So that means for different teas, different types of teas that have different mineralities from the soil, that the roots were in, then different water would work. And so I have heard claims that our shitty water here in Las Vegas is actually really good for certain teas, such as like yangchas, rock teas, which are really like mineral. The roots of those tea trees grow in very mineral. I mean, even the tea itself, the terroir of that tea is explained to have mineral taste. So water that's higher in minerals, may match to that more so than not. So Eric says, no, that doesn't work. Eric says that Fiji water is pretty good for tea, but not every tea. So what I've heard is that like the benefit of Fiji water over other types of water is not worth the price. It's not significant enough to justify paying the higher price for higher quality water. But at the very least, what you could do is use either RO or highly filtered water. But the thing is, when you use RO, reverse osmosis, what it's doing is pretty much isolating the water. So it's only the water molecules. It's purifying it. So it's pretty much separating all the minerality from the water, which means, you don't want it totally without minerals. And so it is advised to remineralize the water. I go through so much water here though that I can't justify the cost of remineralizing all of my water. I feel like the remineralization that the business that I buy the 5-gallon water from is good enough. It's good enough. But I have been called out on my water. I have been. And it's an interesting thing because it's true. Like I'll admit it. It's true. If I was participating in like a tea brewing competition where we had to like take care of every little detail, yeah, I wouldn't use this water in that competition. I would use the correct kind of water for the tea that I'm brewing. Okay, so someone on Reddit asked, should I salt my water before boiling it or after boiling it? So the purpose of salting water when you're boiling it is to elevate the boiling point of that water. So it's actually not a necessary thing to do in cooking, but it is like a trick that people like to use, that chefs like to use to expedite the cooking because the water temperature will be higher. Because water or anything, when it boils, when it reaches its boiling point, it goes through the evaporation process. So like the water can't really get any more higher in temperature, or get any higher in temperature. Excuse my grammar. But if you add salt to it, if you add some kind of mineral to it, salt, sodium salts being a really good one, that will increase the boiling point. Just a couple of degrees, but even those couple of degrees will cook your pasta faster, which is usually your pasta or your potatoes, whatever, if you're just trying to do it quicker. Oh, so you just got some good tea recently. That's great. Yes. Drink good tea. The first rule of thumb I tell people, I sell tea, so I could tell you word about my tea, whatever. But like, the first rule of thumb is as long as it's loose leaf, you're starting out in the right direction. If it's unblended, unflavored, you're starting out in the right direction. Because like the blending of tea, when you start seeing like pieces of fruit or little flowers blended into the tea, even though it's loose, typically in the industry, and I'm in the industry, I've been in the tea industry for over a decade. I'm a tea importer. I supply high quality direct trade tea to tea businesses all over the world. So I've seen all the tricks in the book. And when you see like blended tea or flavored tea, and flavored tea is like literally they take the tea leaves and they add like perfume to it. They add like oil-based perfume to it, just like food flavoring, extracts or whatever. That's a trick to increase the value of low quality tea or not good tea. So, if you're looking out for loose leaf teas that are unblended, unflavored, like I can't guarantee it means it's good tea, or as I like to call it, clean tea. Because it's kind of hard to decipher good tea. A lot of people say, oh, well, this is good. It's so subjective. How do you say this is good or not good? I'd rather advocate for clean tea, and when I mean clean tea, it means when you drink it, like you feel better than you did before you drank it. Like you don't get a headache. You're not underwhelmed. And that's what happens a lot of times with flavored and blended tea, because the tea itself, the loose leaf tea itself, is not good quality. And so like you may smell the tea at the store, like Teavana, which is a very famous brand that like introduced loose leaf tea into the U.S. market. So thank you, Teavana, for what you did for the industry and for tea culture in general. But a trick that they did with their teas often was that they would flavor them, and then they would waft the aroma from the canister at the store to you. So you were just like knocked off your feet, like, whoa, that's so great, that's awesome, yeah, I want that, I need that at my house. And so you buy, like 2 ounces of it and you take it home, and outside of that aroma that you get when you open the can, like once you brew the tea, and also cleanliness, like in the tea itself, you can see how clean this actually is. There's not like, it's not cloudy, there's like a beautiful like color sheen on it. Like that's something else to look for with clean good teas. But yeah, with flavored teas, outside of that aroma, when you open the canister or when you first brew it, like once you drink it, it's like you forget about it immediately. Like you don't feel any textures from it. Once you swallow it, it's like water. It's done. And here we are celebrating water. That's great too. But with tea, you're enhancing the water, right? I mean, tea is essentially water. Like most of it was water. Like my guy Juan here filled with tea. This is hardly any tea compared to the water when I brew it. When I put the water in here, it's mostly water. So you're using the tea to enhance the water. So you want it to have texture. You want it to have unique, complex, balanced flavors, as well as aromas. So like really good quality tea that is not flavored can actually have like beautiful aroma that'll surprise you. Eric had mentioned dansongs. He uses RO water for his dansongs. Dansong is a type of oolong tea from China. Dansong translates to single bush. And why it means single bush is not because they pick the leaf from one single bush, although the really, really expensive shit, like the stuff that like you can't even buy, that only royalty can get access to. What they mean by single bush is that like it's a single cultivar, a single mother plant that they have selected because of a unique aroma character to it. And when they propagate out the field, it's only from that bush, and it'll only be like a first generation like cutting from that bush, or second generation. Anything beyond that, then the character starts to dilute. So a true high quality dansong tea from the first or second generation will have like such a unique aroma, you'll think it's flavored. You'll think there's perfume in it. You're like, what the fuck is this? It's so good. Like, I've had my mind blown, only by a few teas. And tea blows my mind every day. But like, I love tea. I love what I learned from it. But like, there's been a few teas in my life when I tasted my first cup of it, like the real genuine one, that's the really high quality one. And dansong was that. I was in Chaozhou, which is like the closest town to the mountain where this tea comes from, and I had my first real cup. Of course, I've had some here in the U.S. before going to various tea shops, and the tea shop owner telling me, "Oh, I have this wonderful. It's also known as Phoenix Mountain Oolong." I said, "You got to try this Phoenix Mountain Oolong. It's so good," and I was kind of underwhelmed by it. I was like, "This is nothing really special," but if you get your hands on the first generation or the second generation type of dansong, then you understand why it's so highly valued, why it's so important and valuable to the Chinese tea culture. So you're asking me about, so this is Gung Fu. I am brewing Gung Fu style, so I've got my Gaiwan, got my pitcher, but also Gung Fu is not a specific protocol. There's a lot of confusion around that. That Gung Fu is somehow like a ceremony, and there's like a specific protocol to follow in a ceremony, which that's what defines a ceremony. A ceremony is a practice in which there's a protocol. And usually the steps of that protocol have some type of valued reverence. Be it spiritual or something else, but there's some lineage of teachers that have passed on that reverence. And in order to properly practice a ceremony, in most cases, there are a few ceremonies that you could, right off the bat, you can do a ceremony right there. But most ceremonies, Japanese tea ceremony, there are several different Chinese and Taiwanese tea ceremonies, as well as Korean tea ceremonies. It is a lifetime of study and practice before someone will even say they perform ceremony. There's a lot of humility involved in it. But Gung Fu tea, Gung Fu cha, it's not a specific protocol. And a lot of people are confused on this, including tea vendors. Like you will go to a tea shop, and even the owner of that tea shop that's been studying tea for 20 years is still confused about this. And there's a lot of reasons why we shouldn't judge them, like only inspire and learn more and become better, because there is an issue of cultural appropriation when we start doing that. When we start assuming someone's culture and then do it improperly and in a disrespectful way. But Gung Fu cha is actually an intention. Gung Fu is the same as Kung Fu that we know from like martial arts. So, we think of Kung Fu as like various practices of martial arts. It's the same word. It means to do with great skill. Now, that great skill doesn't necessarily have to come from experience. it's an intention. So when you go practice Kung Fu, when you go practice a martial art, your sensei or your teacher, your sifu, they are going to, first and foremost, teach you how to focus on your intention. And then once you do that, on top of experience, you will become elite, right? But first you have to set the intention. So in the context of Gung Fu Tea, Gung Fu Cha, Cha is tea. Cha is the original word for tea from China. An interesting thing about Cha and tea is they're the same words. It's just Cha or Chai or Shai or Shai. Those are all derivatives of the word Cha. Those are all in populations and languages where tea traveled over land to reach those populations. While places where we say tea or te, or some derivative of te was the original one, that was due to some confusion. Not exactly sure who actually made that exact confusion, but it's been attributed to Dutch traders that brought tea on their ships to Europe. So any place where tea moved by boat, they mixed up the word cha to te, either because they couldn't say cha, or they forgot cha, or they wanted to play a prank, or whatever. But it is attributed to Dutch traders that changed the word to te. But like cha and te, it all comes from the same plant, Camellia sinensis, which is green, black, white, oolong, pu'er, yellow tea. They all come from that same plant. So if you want to be linguistically, technically correct, tea only comes from that plant. So things that you brew, you infuse, which you could use the Gung Fu process of brewing, such as chamomile or lavender or any array of herbs or flowers that have become quite popular in brewing and steeping like a tea. Those are actually technically called a tisane, or an herbal infusion. But don't worry, we're not snobs around here. We're just trying to educate and get better. So, you are welcome to use the word tea to describe anything. It is completely understood in U.S. especially, and actually the use of the word tea to describe anything that's steeped in hot water is because of the United States of America. Because we didn't have tea. Remember the whole Boston Tea Party thing? Like, that was actually a pretty big event that's still impacting our culture now. And actually, for the good now. Because we don't have a British tea culture, which I'm sorry anybody here is from the UK. You may be drinking good tea. Like, it's not impossible. There are very good tea vendors that are making good tea accessible in the UK, but the British style of drinking tea in the tea bag with the milk and sugar, that's a very British style, and actually from Britain it's spread all over the world. So even like Indian style chai milk tea, Thai iced tea, Hong Kong style milk tea, that was all culturally adopted from the British. But when you add milk and sugar to a tea, which was originally invented as a satiation tool for the growing proletariat, because you had all of these lower income working class people that were working long hours to support the Industrial Revolution, they either didn't have the time, the resources, or the money to afford to eat 3 square meals a day to support their labor. And so tea time and milk tea, especially milk tea, milk and sugar, was developed as a way to satiate the labor class. And so when you're adding milk and sugar to a tea, that's very rich. Milk is very rich, sugar, of course, very rich. So you want the flavor of the tea to pop out, to stand out. And so the teas that were favored in that style of tea brewing were higher brisk, higher malty, higher astringency, because you have like the sweetness and the fatty, kind of thickness from the milk, that you want the astringency, the tannins, you want that to pop out. And so the tea is lower quality, which worked out because this was like a low income satiation tool for the proletariat. So you wanted cheaper tea. You wanted more of a commodity type of a product. But, because America, the United States of America, rejected tea as a symbol of British culture, we didn't have a tea culture for the longest time. It was kind of taboo to drink tea. It was very British. Like, are you British if you drink tea? And we were trying to be un-British at that time. And so then when tea started to get reintroduced into our culture, we didn't really understand what tea was. We didn't know black tea and oolong tea and green tea. So we just called everything tea. And so that's where that came from. So it's totally understandable if you want to use the word tea. I'm more than happy to educate, but we're not trying to be snobs here or anything like that. But we did get another question. Somebody asked about the embroidery behind here. These are actually gifts that are given in... No, milk tea has its origins in the UK. Although Eric, you're right. It is attributed to not China though, but like Tibet, like in the Himalayas. They've been doing kind of a milk tea, but it's different. The milk tea in the Himalayas is different. The British took it off and did something. But even the milk tea in the Himalayas and Tibet and Mongolia, that was also kind of a satiation tool, but not for like the Industrial Revolution. That was just because it's fucking cold and you need some meat on your bones to keep warm in those places. So that's why they added richness to the tea. But I believe that's where the British got the idea from, was from like the yak butter tea that's common in the Himalayas. These scarves are usually like a token of being welcomed and of reverence and respect in Assam, India. I spend a lot of time traveling throughout India, all over the tea growing world, because I run a B2B marketplace for independent family-owned tea farms. So, I go visit with them, collect videos and stories from those communities, and bring business to them. And not only bring business to them, but bring a new type of business to them. And I'm sure you've heard it before in the benefits of direct trade. You hear it in chocolate, you hear it in coffee. The same thing applies in tea, because the local markets that these farmers have access to, that they can bring their tea and sell it to in the bulk wholesale markets, are very exploitive. Very, very exploitive. Even fair trade, it's very exploitive. We're talking about just a few dollars a kilo. But tea takes a lot of work to make. So it's not fair. Even if the tea, by the time it gets to the US, it gets blended, it gets flavored, and then, it's sold in a fancy package for $25, and you feel like, oh, this is great. I feel like I'm paying a good price for this tea. That tea business more than likely got the tea from a supply chain that came from that local wholesale market where the farmer is not getting much. And so when I travel and do the work that we're doing, we are providing prices that are sometimes 50 times higher than what the local market is willing to pay them. Because there's so much collusion and buying power in those local markets. And don't get me wrong, I would love to have that too. I would love to have that buying power as far as quantity, scale, but doing it with the ethos of transparency and trust, very similar to, the ethos of cryptocurrency and these like peer-to-peer networks. It's not impossible. I run my business pretty much completely by myself. Like I do work with my brother. He's one of my co-founders. He doesn't work full time with me, but like I purposefully keep it that way because like if my business can run really lean without a lot of overhead, then like we can stay in that point where we're not trying to absorb value and money everywhere, instead trying to uplift the mission, which, the mission in our business is to create a connection between the tea growers and the tea lovers. Yeah, Sheba. Cool. Hey, good on you. Good on you, awesome Sheba. Bitcoin, come here. Speaking of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin wants to meet you. Come on, buddy. Come on, Bitcoin boy. This is Bitcoin. He's not exactly a Shiba, but he's a supporter of Shiba. Hey, congratulate. I hope you have lots of Shiba, and I hope it goes to the moon and beyond. My brother has been really enthusiastic about Shiba lately. Well, I mean, who isn't? Anybody that's holding Shiba is really enthusiastic about it right now. But yeah, this is Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been a part of our team since 2013. My company, Tealet, the business I'm talking about, this B2B marketplace, we became one of the first Bitcoin merchants at the end of 2013, and then in February of 14, we launched. We got a little Doge versus Shiba fight here. I support both of them, man. I like memes, I like dogs, I like cryptocurrency. I support all of them. I want to see all of them succeed. But yeah, in 2014, February 2014, we launched the world's first altcoin payment processor. I mean, this was like really early on for Litecoin. I actually went to grad school with one of the, actually I think he was the lead developer of Litecoin. And he had told me, hey, you're accepting Bitcoin now, you should accept Litecoin as well. And he worked with our developer to develop that payment processor. But now with the inefficiencies of cryptocurrency transactions, we aren't handling microtransactions with it. But now we utilize a service. I can't even talk tonight. We utilize a service that will facilitate the trade of cryptos or anything. It's kind of a full stack solution. Oh, he wants to get all up. Oh, you're such a cutie. DJ, you're funny. Does the dog invest in crypto? No. He just invests in himself and his own happiness, which, I fully encourage. I believe, like, the value of cryptocurrency is, like, far more than any type of capital gains that we could be making on, like this exciting, market adoption of cryptocurrencies. Like, and it's great. I'm happy for all of my friends that have made or have become, he's a very furry expert. All of my friends that have become like Bitcoin billionaires, and I have a lot of those friends because I've been in the game for a long time and we are influencers in the space. I'm happy for them. I am so happy for them. But I am like even more excited about the potential of what Bitcoin can do. Not just Bitcoin, but cryptocurrency, because I think the future of cryptocurrency is going to be like thousands upon thousands, like an infinite amount of coins. It's just going to be part of our life. And yeah, that overall like ethos of like transparency and accountability and trust, I think can bring a lot of value to our world and also to our water, which is what we're talking about today, bringing it full circle around. So yeah, the scarves are from Assam. Those are been offered to me over the years. Different households that we've spent time at. You thought it was a huge laugh when it was close to the camera. Yeah, he does. He does kind of look like a miniature, like, lab dog, doesn't he? He's like a forever puppy because he's like almost 10 years old now. He's not a youngin' anymore. Oh, look, I got something in my teeth. I wonder if that's tea. Oh, that's totally tea. That's so funny. It probably fell out from when I was brewing. Hey, MBS, thanks for coming in and saying hello. Water is great. Water is life. Water is everything. We're going to be talking about it. I have some articles we'll look at. You know, I just like, we can talk about water and tea. I have been talking about that. I'll talk about it. Cool. Fresh fried fish has got the insights of the cryptos. I heard that the word crypto has been freaking trademarked and like we're not supposed to be using it anymore. I'm waiting because I use the word almost like 20 times a day, like on public, on stream, and in my social media. I'm just like waiting until the lawyers hit me up for my royalties for using the word freaking crypto. Crazy. Yeah, good point. Green tea on an empty stomach. Eric, what do you gotta say about that? What do you gotta say about green tea on an empty stomach? Yeah, our friend here on Reddit says not a good idea. Bad, not good on an empty stomach, for sure. Yes. But no problem for you, Eric? You've never had a problem? I've totally fucking thrown up after drinking. It wasn't necessarily green tea. Actually, no, matcha tea. First thing in the morning, I like whisked up a bowl of matcha one time because I was like super tired and I had to go somewhere. I was like, I didn't even like have time to do anything else. I just like got up and made my matcha and just took it down. And immediately had to go to the bathroom and throw up. So yeah. You have matcha genmaicha. That's actually a really good tea. That's a nice tea to drink. You know, Itoin is actually the very first company that I worked for when I got into tea. How long? 12 years ago. I was, so I'm a food scientist. My background, I'm a food scientist. Food scientists are those people in lab coats that work in the big food factories with the, you know, with the clipboard, like doing all of the FDA compliance and whatnot. I was quality control supervisor for Itoin's. Yeah, drink water. Good idea. I've got my water right here. So good. So good. He hates water. I can never get him to drink water. When we live in the fucking desert, and you think he waits until he's like absolutely dehydrated until he drinks water, and then he'll just like he'll drink a whole bunch of it because he's dehydrated, and then he'll like walk away and like jump up on a couch or something, and then because you know he drank too much water. Yeah, you're a silly dog. You're a silly dog. Yeah, I did quality control at Itoin for 2 years. And, you know, it was the first job as a food scientist where I was, like, kind of proud of the product that we were making. Because in most cases, if you have any kind of, like, moral code and, like, care about, you know, ethics and the quality of the products that you're serving to the public, it's a really hard thing in food science because... like, you know all the nitty-gritty details. You know all the chemicals that are being added. You know all the loopholes and the regulations. So I had a troubled time. That's why I went to the Peace Corps. I went to the Peace Corps because I was just like, I felt so jaded. Like, there's no place that I could work where I feel like I'm actually, like, providing sustenance to the public. Even at like organic certified places and whatnot. But with tea at Itoin, it was like a healthy product. It was literally just like powdered green tea, water, some citric acid. You know, you need the preservative in there, citric acid. Like, yeah, Itoin is kind of janky. Yep. Itoin, let me just say it this way. Since I've started working with farmers and I'm like deep in the like soil of the tea growing world. You know, I got a Japanese MBA, so I could like. Well, let me finish the story about Itoen and working there. So I worked there. I was happy with the product, and then I was doing the traceability for the FDA compliance, meaning that like all the product that comes in, you have to have lot numbers, tracking numbers, and then all the cans that would go out, we had to have like printed on little code numbers, because if you have like a salmonella outbreak or something, you need to be able to trace everything and get it off the shelf. But we were receiving the tea in these like 3-ton super sacks with no code. And we were receiving several sacks a week to process our product. It was impossible. It was impossible. Even if we printed our own code on the can, it meant shit, because if like a producer hit us up and said, oh, this was affected, like this day's harvest was affected, we would have to assume that the entire, like everything was hit, because we didn't even have codes on the raw materials. So we would just have to assume that everything that we've produced is affected and pull it from the shelf. And so I told my boss, hey, let me develop this program. I potentially will need to go to Japan to work with the producers there. Oh, Bitcoin, you're so cute. He's so cute. I'll just let you see how cute he is. He's like over here, just like cuddled up next to me. I'm like, what do you want? I'm just resting. So I asked my boss, and he says, you know what? That's all management work. It's all in Japanese language. And all of our managers are Japanese. You're not Japanese. You don't speak Japanese. It's not your business. So I thought, you know what? Okay, let me go learn Japanese business so I can become a manager. So I got the Japanese MBA. I was in Hawaii. The Itoen has a factory there. And so during my Japanese MBA, I did an internship in Japan on a tea farm in Kyoto. And that's when I learned the truth about Itoen. Like Itoen, like for Japanese tea farmers, when you say the word Itoen, it's like saying the word Mufasa. You know, everybody's like, ugh. Because like Itoen is the company in Japan that introduced like ready to drink green tea. Prior to Itoen, you only, you know, brewed, I don't have one here, but you only brewed your tea in a kyusu. You know, at home, you made your sencha in a kyusu, and you enjoyed good quality tea, and the consumer valued it, and it was actually lucrative for the farmers. But once Itoen started making the, it's called oya ocha, it's like a ready-to-drink green tea in a bottle, then all the other companies started making it, and it's kind of like Coca-Cola in Japan. So huge buying power, and over the 30 years that Itoen developed, and all of the other brands developed their buying power, the price of tea for farmers at the wholesale market, the wholesale local market, has actually gone down, right? Like things are supposed to go up. Inflation is supposed to bring, yeah, it's a good product. You know, the oyocha is a good product. It tastes good, it's refreshing, it's a hell of a lot healthier than soft drinks, like with sugar. But, you know, if you're concerned about sustainability, if you're concerned about those types of things, like, yeah, Itoen is doing a great disservice to the industry. In fact, now they're having to get supply from other countries. Itoen developed a tea industry in Australia, specifically for like this growing demand, this commodification that their product has brought to the tea industry. It's pretty wild. So I had to start this company because I was thinking after I graduated, I was like, oh, I'll go back to Itoen, and then, you know, I can do this work and I can help, because they claim all this sustainability. If you go to their website, there's all this CSR, where we care for the farmers, we care for the industry. But after being in the thick of it, I came to learn, no, they don't. It's good for marketing to say that they do, but they really don't. And I was like, you know what? I've got to make my own company now. So, yes, Kyusu. I like that. Yes, Kyusu. Nice hiragana. My Japanese is so bad now. So I studied it for a year and a half, and then I lived 6 months in the countryside. So like I learned like Kyoto Ben. I learned like the local like, and it's kind of like, you know, the countryside in Japan is older populations. So Tea's Tea is like a brand offshoot of Itoen, but the Oi Ocha is something that you can find all over the world actually. It's probably like the most popular tea brand in the world. But Tea's Tea, and the Tea's Tea, look at the labels. They are mostly like flavored sweetened teas. Hey homies, what's up? Oh, Bitcoin. Bitcoin's like, what? Where's homies? Where's homies? We're talking about water today. And I'm just going off on a tangent about Itoen, which was a company I worked for. I know their product intimately because I was doing quality control for them. It's funny. I've got so many stories about Itoen. I've got some great stories. I'm like formulating all these stories to release on TikTok. I think TikTok is a good platform to do it, but I've got like a lot of really great entrepreneurial stories of like how that one company has like motivated me to do a lot of the work that I do now. Yeah, so the name of my company is Tealet, T-E-A-L-E-T. Here, I've got a link here. Now, that's wholesale. So like the technology and like the main, you know, like 98% of our revenue in our business development is wholesale. So like we do like large scale importing so we can get the shipping costs cheap. And then we have a marketplace, and then smaller scale tea shops and tea businesses can do direct trade sourcing. And instead of importing directly from the farms, you know, if they import like 5 kilos, the shipping on that, especially right now with the pandemic, shipping has gotten really crazy. It can be like 3 times more expensive for shipping than it is for the tea itself. And so, you know, I'm trying to bring as much efficiency and then share that resource with the entire industry. So the same thing with cryptocurrency. Why we're a leader in cryptocurrency and trying to innovate and find new uses for it. It's not fair trade. So fair trade, that's a whole other thing. But this website right here is my retail website, teaanditspeople.com. teaanditspeople.com. And then if you want to come to our channel, our Twitch channel, I stream here 5 days a week. Lots of different content, all tea content. But I do gaming. Actually, I did my first gaming stream on Tuesday. That was a lot of fun. There's like a tea garden simulator game that I started playing, which is pretty cool because like as I'm playing, I'm able to like assess if it's accurate or not, which the game is actually quite accurate. It's quite fun to play. But I also have like art streams, music streams. I do a Constitution study group on Wednesdays. So if you're interested in civility and those types of things, come follow our channel. But on Fridays, I do this series called Best Life Friday, where I dive deep into a topic. Today's topic is water and water appreciation. Because fucking A, man, water. Speaking of, I'm on it. But yeah, just real quick, since someone brought up fair trade, I'm just gonna do this quick because this is also a passionate thing of mine. People ask me all the time. It's like, oh, what do you think about like Lipton? What do you think about this company, your competitor? What do you think about that? And it's like, even Itoen, you know, like there's always the potential for us to collaborate, you know, because what I'm building is an industry platform. I'm not building like a tea brand. I'm building a platform, so anybody in the industry can play on it. The only organization that I see as a competitor, a direct competitor, is Fair Trade International, which is a very corrupt, crooked organization that does not serve the purpose that the public has been marketed to believe that they serve. You know, of course, they probably started out with good intentions, but over time, have not. So current situation with Fair Trade is that they are a for-profit organization. Big one, you can sit down. Here, come back over here. Why'd you move over there? Come on. Oh, you want to go be close to your friends over there? Okay. You're blocking though. You're blocking the view. Come here. Come on. Come here. Come back here. I'll give you a treat. Come on. Come sit down here. I'll give you a treat. Sit down. They are a for-profit organization. They charge, I mean, the figure that I've heard from farmers that I work with is that they charge like $30,000 a year to come inspect the farms. And when they come inspect the farm, they only hold the farm accountable for local labor laws. So if your local labor laws are in cahoots, you know, with your labor organizations are in cahoots with the politicians, you know, in India, there are some tea growing states where the minimum wage for a tea farm worker is like $1.50 a day. So as long as they're paying that, you know, you get the certification. So it's like a corporate marketing tool. That's all it really is. And so if you really want to like support, you know, good ethics and what, you know, you think fair trade to be, drink good quality, you know, because good quality tea can't be made with oppressed labor. It can't be made with abused soil. Yes, he thinks he's a cat, that's for sure. He thinks he's a cat. Oh, great, you found the website. Cool. Yeah, feel free to order. Feel free not to order too. Don't worry. Like I said, like, my business is not reliant upon consumer sales. Like, if you want to support my business, you want to get access to good quality tea and join our community, please, welcome. But like, the purpose of why I do live streaming, why I'm streaming to Reddit and to TikTok is because I'm trying to like plant these seeds, because when the consumer becomes educated, then they will go into the businesses and demand what they're looking for. Just like the labor issue. Yes, Bitcoin is always trying to steal the show. He's always trying to steal the show. You know, the labor issue, the labor shortage that we're having right now, like, this is the labor market telling the corporate world what they want. You know, and the corporate world will listen. It's great. It's like, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. And so the same thing can happen with the products that we consume. You know, they always say buy with your dollars, but even that in itself, if you don't have transparency, verification behind the information of that transparency, it's very easy to be like fooled that, you know, like that the ethics are actually theirs. It's like fair trade. You know, you see that fair trade label on the front of the package and you feel comfortable. You feel like, oh, this is great. This is ethical. I feel safe. But unless you have the full amount of information about like where it came from, the families behind it, the effort and the craft that they put into it, and in the case of how we do on our platform, we even have transparency of the pricing, like how much of the monies are making it back to the grower. In our business model, the grower always makes, at least in the direct trade, in the trade from origin to the wholesale buyer, the farmer always makes at least 60% of the money. It's either 60% or 80% of the money. That is like unheard of in the agriculture commodity trade. Unheard of. Usually all the middlemen and the traders and the brokers in the middle, you know, make all the money. So we're trying to retain that back to the farmers. So thank you for letting me share that. Water is life. Water is great. Homie says, Water the Great Mystery is an awesome documentary. Anybody seen that? Anybody else seen that? I've never seen it. I'm gonna take note of it and check it out. Yeah, you know, I never, like, in my childhood, definitely. But then even through college, I never paid mind to water, you know? I took it for granted. I think a lot of people do take it for granted. I didn't start really appreciating water until it became a precious thing that I had to work really hard. You know, when I was in the Peace Corps, we had to pull our water from a well similar to what's behind me here on the Twitch stream. every day, you know? So then like every cup of water, even when I was doing my dishes, every drip of water that I was using to clean my dishes was highly valued and treasured. My bathing, you know, I didn't run like a 20-minute shower. I didn't have a shower. I didn't have running water. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that experience, even though it was a difficult experience. Some may say even traumatic. I'm super grateful because it helped me really see that. Farmers are our heroes, you know? Just like water is life, just like water is something that we should never take for granted and develop a stronger connection with. I feel the same way with farming. And our society here in the United States and for a lot of the Western world, farmers are not only taken for granted, but have been completely marginalized, which is silly because it's like, without them, we can't eat. Okay, so now Bitcoin's coming in. He may knock the camera over. That'd be funny if he does that. All right, there he goes. He's like, yes, I officially want to steal the show. All right, maybe he deserves a treat for that. All right, looked up this movie. That looks great. Oh, it's available on YouTube. All right, I'll check it out. Thank you for that, homies. All right, let me give Bitcoin a treat. He deserves it. Every time, little ASMR, little doggy ASMR. Good boy, Bitcoin, good boy. Yeah, like Western Hemisphere. Yeah. I don't know. From my understanding, I'm gonna look it up online just to make sure I kind of understand kind of the consensus idea around it. But from my experience of that term, or describing the world and how different cultures are split up, it's like you've got the Western world, the Eastern world, which is like Asian, specifically I think like East Asia, and then like the Middle East. But I don't know, I'll look it up. It's a good question though, because that's a word that I use all the time, and I just kind of take it for granted that so it seems such a pleb. The Western world, also known as the West, has come from Wikipedia, refers to various regions, nations, and states, depending on the context. So yeah, it is different in different contexts. Most often consisting of the majority. The majority of Europe, the Americas, and Australia. Yeah, Australia. So European mindset. It's more of a mindset thing too, you know. I'm not specifically talking about the countries themselves or the places themselves, but more the mindset. You know, it's hard to describe, but it is all about context. So yeah, thank you for that question. It's a good question. Oh, they do some experiments on water? Okay, I'll definitely. We were just talking about experiments on water, well, with tea, specifically with tea, because using different water types will yield different qualities in your tea. Yeah. very focused. He's a very focused little Doge. Very focused. Am I Australian? Do I sound Australian? No, I'm from the United States. Yeah, cultural attitudes, you're right. Yeah, I'm born and raised in the United States. I hate using the term American because America is much more than just the United States, but I've traveled and lived in other cultures, so I have a unique experience. You know, it's that funny joke, like, what do you call someone who speaks one language, or no, what do you call someone who speaks two languages, bilingual, three languages, trilingual, one language, American, right? But you know, I've learned other languages and I'm grateful for it. Just like I'm grateful the experience in the Peace Corps helped me develop a relationship with water, appreciation with water. It also helped me gain confidence that I can learn another language, because you know, I studied languages in school and I was terrible at it. Like, none of it stuck. I never gained any kind of fluency. But living 2 years in a place where like no one speaks English, not even French. It was a French company. French country. I was in, or French colonized country. I was in Niger. But I was like deep in the bush, deep in the countryside. So they only spoke Hausa. So I learned Hausa, which is actually the second most widely spoken native language of Africa. Spoken throughout Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Burkina Faso. And so then after that, I had the confidence to learn other languages. So then I studied Japanese. I started studying Mandarin, but I did not maintain any of that. But I spent a lot of time in China and Taiwan, so I get exposed to it a lot. I'm actually really good at hearing it, but speaking it, I'm not very good. Not very good. I got the tones. But outside of that, anything for nausea? Oh, that's an interesting question. You know, I think, usually Bitcoin only gets treats if people on Twitch give us bits, but since you asked so nicely, I'll give him a treat. Uh-oh. Don't lose your treat. Come here. Come eat it from right here. He enjoys these. Are chicharron, like fried pork skin. Is his favorite treat. Hi, Indira. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Oh, interesting question. That's a deep question. It's a little bit off topic, but I'll put a little time. I'll dedicate a little bit of time into that. So who is this? Boy Hot Sauce says, interesting to hear about your time in Africa. Why do you think Africa hasn't experienced the monetary and civil stability of other continents? Well, I've thought about that a lot. I just, like, from my experience, which is not the all-encompassing experience, because Africa is a huge place filled with lots of different cultures, and not only lots of different cultures, but lots of different resources, right? And that's an important thing to keep in mind when you think about its current situation. In the place that I was living in, there was no resources. There was actually one resource, which is actually a very dangerous resource. It actually has made the political climate there really intense, which is uranium. Like up in the Sahara Desert, where the Tuareg or the Bedouin people live and have been living for a long period of time, there are uranium stores underneath. But in different parts of Africa, there are different resources. You've got like cacao, you've got diamonds, you've got gold, you've got like oil, right? So many different resources, and the place has been super colonized. It was a very valuable experience because, hi Jim, good to see you. Thanks for saying hello. Yeah, Bitcoin is getting spoiled today. He really is. Where I particularly lived, there was no resources to exploit. I was in the bush, in a place where like colonists, and even the extreme militant groups that were trying to absorb power from that uranium resource, they had no interest in the place where I was living. Like there was nothing of value for them to take. So like the place where I lived was like kind of uncolonized. The country itself had been colonized, but that specific place was uncolonized. So it was a really cool experience because I could feel the 2 years I lived there and learned language and learned the customs and learned the day-to-day activities, such as pulling water from the well like this. I really felt like I was living in a lifestyle that was probably the same thing that they were doing like 2,000 years prior, which is fascinating, right? Because I don't think there's really anywhere else in the world where you can feel that way, right? Because so many things have been so many places and communities have been colonized and told they need to change, told they need to acquire more property. I think that's the key. That's the key backbone of capitalism. That's colonized the world. They didn't have that chip on their shoulder, that they felt like they were somehow less human because they didn't have money, or they didn't own a vehicle, or they didn't have a television in their house. They didn't even have electricity. And they were doing the same activities day to day, waking up every morning doing the same activities with their family that probably was being done there a few thousand years before, which is incredible. But that's the cool thing about Africa. Like people always like to focus on like the negative things, which there's no shortage of like genocide and like ethnic violence and exploitation and political violence that happens in Africa, right? But then there's also this really beautiful kind of what some people would call the underbelly. Some people would say, oh, that's savage, that's like outdated, that's but I found it to be like really loving and actually really happy. I've never experienced people being so happy. But yeah, there's a lot of resources, and then they say, oh, well, the colonizers aren't there anymore. In some places they're not there, just like India, right? India is a place where the colonizers aren't there anymore. But it's like the colonizer mindset's still there. That chip on their shoulder is still there. Any pre-existing maybe caste kind of resentment between different groups of people is still there. Any ethnic resentment between people is still there. And if anything, the colonizers used that as a tool to like divide and conquer, right? That was like a huge thing in India, and I think I saw it a lot in Africa too. Is like a lot of these communities for thousands of years coexisted no problem, because they just had to. But when there's somebody there trying to gain influence and power over the whole, it helps if they can get the people pitted against each other. That's exactly what happened in India between the Hindus and the Muslims, and all the mess that we see that split up Pakistan and Bangladesh from India. And so even if the colonizers leave, like they leave with this big mess there. And Africa is just like, I don't know, with all of the like great violence and distress and unrest that's there, I think that there's a lot of prosperity and happiness there. that like we aren't even close to it in the Western world. You know what I mean? And so that's why I do the work that I do. I was inspired by that. I was like, wow, how the heck are these people happy? Like infant mortality is like 20%. So infant mortality of 20% means that if you have 5 children, one of them is going to die before they're 2 years old. And it's just like a common thing, you know? Like I saw several children in the community I lived in. Families tell me that the child died. And like they're not even sad. They just go on with their day. Smile. Go on with their life. And like how the heck, you know, like they're only eating 1 meal every 2 days. They hardly have water accessible to them, but they have water accessible to them, which, you know, is a pretty amazing thing. And they had like a really intimate connection to all of those things that they actually needed. I think that's happiness, you know, and so that's why I'm talking about water today, because, you know, it's something that like we so often take for granted. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on. I mean, sure there was, actually. There was. And there's been various types of colonizers, not just the European colonizers. Where I lived in Niger, it is a traditionally animist cultural community. And in fact, the village that I lived in is known to be a very small village. It was known to be one of the last strongholds of animism in the area. People from all over the country would come to my village, very small village, to host what were called nwasas. I don't know the best way to translate, because like the translation from Hausa to English for wasa is a play. It just means play, like to play a game. Wasa is play. But it was more of like a seance where they would do these activities to beckon spirits to visit their mediums, who were kind of like shaman of sorts, but not, you know, it's a completely different thing. But they're all practicing Muslims. You know, the praying 5 times a day is really important to them. The mosque in the community is really important to them. And, you know, that was colonizers. In fact, there is to this day, you know, some villages that I visited to do work and like go meet the chief, to go, you know, talk business with them and come up with a game plan together. You know, the chief's complex would be this big, beautiful home, and, you know, walking up to the door to the home, there was like a village within the village, and, you know, I'd ask the people I'd walk past and be like, this is cool, like, are you part of the family with the chief? Like, what's it? And they're like, no, we're slaves. Like, slaves? Yeah. Like, generational. But, you know, it was an interesting thing, too, because they lived in harmony with each other as well, which was kind of interesting. Like, there wasn't, maybe there was, you know, same thing with, like, the multiple wives. Only in very few cases where there was, like, very acute, specific abuse involved in the marriages. Very few cases did I hear any of the women complain about other wives. They were actually very sisterly and happy about the arrangement. Kind of the same thing with these families. They say, oh yeah, they take care. Oh, Jim, thank you so much for the bits. You're going to get Bitcoin fat today. Bitcoin, you see that? Jim just gave you some bits. He wants you to have another snack. Thank you for the bits. Bits for the Bitcoin. He was falling asleep. Well, he's gonna do that. You know, he's a dog cat. Dog cats sleep all day long everywhere. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. No falling asleep, Bitcoin. All right, I think it's time. I think it's time to start doing some research here. I want to, you know, outside of talking about like the science of water and like how the water interacts with our body and brings that like technical, you know, livability and happiness to us, and just drinking the water and becoming hydrated. I wanted to first talk about like the accessibility to water and how that plays into our happiness. Although I just made the statement that the people that I lived with in Niger, in the village of Tonga Sarking Noma, that was the name of the village I lived in. Yeah, surprise! I just stated that there was great happiness there, even though they had to pool all their water. They didn't have like a tap in the house to turn on the water. I think there's a lot to be said about the value of running water, of indoor plumbing, of, you know, like things that like, yeah, we take for granted. Our happiness is not completely dependent on those things at the same time, though. So yeah, I found this paper titled Happiness on Tap, Piped Water Adoption in Urban Morocco. This is from 2011, so it's a newer paper. You know, there's still a lot of places in the world where tap water is not a ubiquitous common thing. A lot of people forget that. Same thing with fucking toilet paper. Remember that last year there was that whole thing about people like hoarding their toilet paper? And it's like, most people in the world don't use toilet paper. They don't even know what toilet paper is. Like the entire time that the 2 years I lived in Niger, I never used toilet paper. I think I used it like twice as like a luxury thing when I was like in the city, because I wanted to splurge. But in the village, no one used toilet paper. So that's funny. Bitcoin does make a better door than a window. Yeah, you can't see through him. We like to joke that he's head of security here. You know, his name is Bitcoin, right? So we like to say he's head of security, because anytime there's a knock at the door, like, he is the first one to let everybody know, you know, there's someone at the door. Like, here, let me show you. See if I have like a heavier. No? You're smarter than that? You're smarter than that? Who's that? He does. He always wants to be included. He's always just here. I hope you don't mind. I hope you don't mind that he comes and steals the show. But he loves you all. That's why. That's why he wants to be here with you. It's his choice. He comes right up to me and he looks up and he's like, yeah, I want to come hang out. I stream 5 days a week, and usually, yeah, he's hanging out up here with me on the tea table. I think he likes, because he's a Chihuahua. He's like a desert dog, so I think he likes all the lights. You know, there's like warmth up here. I think he likes it. Oh, you know, Jim, I do recommend that the first time you meet Bitcoin in person, you do not just go in for a big hug, because, you know, he's not a hugger. In fact, for anybody who ever gets the great fortune of meeting Bitcoin, if you want to pet him or get to know him, always come in from over the top of his head versus trying to come in from underneath him. He's got some insecurity issues about coming from under. Like, if you try to pick him up, forget about it. He'll totally bite you. He's a biter. In fact, he just bit me recently. This has already been like 3 or 4 weeks since he bit me on my finger, and I still got a little scar there. You can't really see it that much, but yeah, he broke through the fucking skin. Yeah, he has to get to know you first. So yeah, don't be heartbroken if he's not like immediately ready to give you hugs right away. All right, we got a question. Recommended tea. Well, and someone else that asked me about nausea tea, and so I can answer the question the same way. All of the health benefits of tea don't really come until you have a lifestyle around like drinking it daily, preparing it and drinking it daily. The focus that you put into preparing it, enjoying it, and then the chemistry of the tea itself does have a lot of health benefits to it, but you're not gonna see those benefits until it's like a lifestyle. So with that in mind, what I always recommend is just what you like. Simple as that. Because if you like let's say I recommend a certain tea and you go get it and you like hate it, it's not your thing, it's not your cup of tea, like you're not going to want to drink that every day. You're not going to want to pursue that every day. You may drink it for a week, and then if you don't feel the health benefits from it or whatever benefit you're looking for from it, you'll stop drinking it. And that's not good, right? That's not going to help. That's not going to help provide that benefit that you're looking for. Be it from like anxiety to weight loss to cancer prevention to whatever you're looking for as your like benefit from the tea. You're not going to get it until it's like a lifestyle thing. Oh, you bought a tea from Nepal. I don't think that's our tea. I don't think that Susie has gotten any of our teas from Nepal. But thank you for supporting Cup of Tea. Thank you for that. Thank you for supporting her business. We need to support more local businesses. Yeah. Tell her we got teas from Nepal. She should get it. Tell her to get the baby amber red. That's a really good tea. It's really good for like cold brew and making into iced tea, which we're in that season now. I see. Okay, so you are asking for a specific recommendation on mental energy. Well, tea is interesting, right? Because tea has caffeine in it, but in addition to the caffeine, it also has L-theanine. And L-theanine changes the caffeine's reaction in the body from like a jolt of energy and an inevitable crash, like you get with coffee or sodas, to a more like sustained release of that energy. And the energy is mental focus, body relaxation, which is perfect. Probably exactly what you're looking for. So that's the L-theanine that you're looking for. All tea will have that. So all teas are going to complement what you're looking for. Now, if you're looking for something super jacked, matcha would be it. And then specifically ceremonial grade matcha. Because like the really intense shading of the tea, so they put like blackout shade. So they basically like torture the tea plants for 4 weeks before they harvest it. That inhibits the photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, the respiration of the plant is what converts all the amino acids into tannins. And so if you want to, L-theanine is an amino acid. If you want to maintain that, then the more shaded teas. So a ceremonial grade matcha, which you can find on our website. It's really hard to find good ceremonial grade matcha. It's really hard. And if you do find it, it's usually really, really expensive. But we work with a group of tea growers in Shizuoka, Japan. You go to this website, you'll find some matcha. Just search matcha when you go here. Just like browse all the teas. So again, I'd say get a variety of teas, because then it's kind of fun to explore it. You taste different things, and it's not like sometimes people will get a bag of matcha and they treat it like it's their medicine. It's like, oh, I've got to have my matcha for the day, and it's not as enjoyable when it's treated that way. Now, if it's like kind of this exciting exploration, kind of like when you get into like wine or whiskeys, right? You like kind of like trying new things and learning your palate. Same thing can apply to tea. And all teas have that L-theanine and that caffeine, so it'll help you. And yeah, you don't need to add sugar or even aspartame, which is the main sweetener used in diet drinks. But yeah, good on you. Diet sodas are, you know, as a food scientist, like learning about all of these like novel ingredients, you know, is cool. It's like, oh, this is like sweet, but then it has no calories. That's great. Oh, thank you for putting the link. Thank you. I appreciate you. Yeah, it's kind of difficult. I didn't want to like be typing it in. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I don't want to be like too pushy on the marketing because again, I'm not trying to sell the tea, like, but I do want to get it out there and like plant those seeds, because then if you get that matcha and then you go to like a local tea shop and you show the owner of that tea shop the matcha and you say, hey, I want to like be able to buy this from you, like, then they'll find me. They'll find my business online and they'll be able to buy it in bulk for the business. That's a good idea. Jim on Twitch says that he gets 2 and then you get 2 different ones. So like, yeah, constantly adding on new teas to the rotation. And like, if you get a tea that you end up not liking, that's great, because now you know, right? Don't buy it again. But you'll never know if you like it or not until you try it, right? So it's interesting. Sometimes people like, they get attached to a certain tea and then it's like, that's my tea always, and I feel like, oh, you're missing out on so much. You're missing out on so much. Oh man, I need some more tea. Water. And then as far as like tea brewing apparatus, like I recommend the Gaiwan. These are like quintessential. It's a cup with a lid, very easy to use, and you can find these at most tea shops, super affordable. And if you don't want to buy one, you can just get a bowl and find a lid that fits on it, you know, because then you just crack the lid a little bit, and then that's, you know, you see the opening on the sides, which you use to hold back the leaf, and you just brew that. You don't have to get this. You don't have to do this gung fu, but you know, you can do gung fu. Like sometimes I'm in a hotel room and I don't have my tea set up, but I have tea and I have hot water, and so it's like I can make tea, but I just kind of improvise it with like a cup and a spoon. You know, I brew it in the cup and then I use a spoon to hold back the leaf and then pour it out into another cup to drink. Matcha is a green tea. Matcha is a green tea. It's a powdered green tea from Japan. Powdered green tea. And so green teas in general are usually higher in the caffeine and the theanine. So all the green teas that you see on that list should be good. But the matcha is the ceremonial grade. We have a cafe grade, which is good too. It's great. It's palatable on its own. It has L-theanine. But if you want like the really focused energy, and then also if you want the tea to be like rich and kind of creamy and milky without adding milk, the ceremonial grade, you know, that's why it's more expensive, because it's more craftsmanship went into it. It's like just the first harvest. It's higher grade than the cafe, but the cafe is good for like lattes. And something on lattes with matcha, if you add protein with it or you take it with the protein will bind to the antioxidants, which is not a problem. Your theanine is still going to be available, the caffeine will still be available, but one of the great benefits of matcha and green tea is the antioxidants, because if you are drinking it on a daily, by the time you're 60 years old, you're going to be really grateful that you did that, because you'll get, you know, your chances of cancer will be less, and other health related issues. Antioxidants free radicals are responsible for a lot, but mostly cancer. So like having antioxidants in your body, in your system on a regular, not just one time, but like on a regular as a lifestyle type of a thing, far less likely to develop cancer. Oh, that's great, Jim. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy to hear that you and your wife are getting into the tea together. That's wonderful. Matcha Midori. Yep, that's the ceremonial. Add watermelon. That sounds great. And grapes. You know, actually, this Darjeeling that I'm having, it has character, the terroir notes. So this is just the tea. And I've just been brewing the tea. The terroir notes of Darjeeling is muscatel, like muscatel grape. So the aroma has like a slight, it's like the skins of the grape, if you can imagine what that like smell and taste like. That's what Darjeeling teas, especially the second flush, are known to have in their terroir, in their character. So to make the matcha, like if you wanted to be as bare bones as possible on it, you can just like literally put some into a water bottle and shake it until it all comes together and then drink that. Like that is like the most, you know, if you keep it stored in like consistent temperature and keep it away from oxygen, meaning like maybe put it into a Ziploc bag and in between every time you use it, you just like push out all the air from it, it should stay good for a couple of years. And then each time you use it, you're going to use 2 grams, right? So 250 grams should be about 125 servings. So, you know, if you're doing it on a daily, like I sell a 250 gram bag to somebody and he buys about every 3 or 4 months. So he's not drinking it every day, but that's about how fast he rotates through it. But yeah, that's the best. I mean, if you're planning to make it a regular practice, getting the larger bag is going to be more cost efficient. But yeah, it should stay good for a couple of years for you if you keep it stored well. Now, if you're going to like put it in a glass jar and be opening that glass jar every day, yes, and it's exposed to light and all of that, like the matcha won't necessarily go bad. It won't expire and like mold and like get you sick. But what will happen is you'll notice the color start to reduce. Like fresh ceremony grade matcha is this beautiful, rich, like forest green color to it, like a deep forest green color. As it oxidizes, which it inevitably will do, even if you keep oxygen out of the bag, like it just will. It's already been exposed to oxygen. It will oxidize, yes, and the color will start to turn yellow and then brown. So, you know, if you buy a bag of matcha at Costco, it's like already brown because it's like not quality. You know, that's how you can tell. Yeah, room temp in a bottle. Like that's like the most like hack way you can make matcha. I do it myself sometimes. Like if I don't have all of my tools, I'll totally just throw a spoonful into a water bottle. I'll drink a little bit from like you know, just a normal size water bottle. I'll drink a little bit to make a space and then put a spoonful of matcha in there and just shake it like that. You know, you may have a couple of little chunks in there, but if you're dealing with the matcha Midori, it's so fucking good that even if you get some chunks, it still tastes good. But if you really want to get into making matcha and making kind of like a ritual, aw. If you really want to make like that's funny, I called out your Costco matcha. I'm not attacking you, I swear. If you really want to get into like the ritual of preparing your matcha, like, and this is not ceremony. Like if you want to get into matcha ceremony, Japanese green tea ceremony, you can do that. Like hit me up in my DMs and let me know where you are and I could like introduce you to like a local like matcha school, like Japanese tea ceremony school. Like they're all over the US. Like there are people that are studying the ceremony. We can get into it. But there is a ritual and there's a practice that brings value to the L-theanine. It heightens your body's reaction to the L-theanine when you practice some type of meditation while you drink the matcha. And this is it. This is a bamboo whisk. It's a single piece of bamboo that has been cut. So this is a handmade one. This is like a artisan craft one. That the single piece of bamboo has been cut in a way where it makes this whisk. But you can find these online or at tea shops that are like made in factories in China for really cheap, like 15 bucks. If you get like a handmade one, they're gonna be like at least 60 bucks. So this is an investment. And then this is like a ceramic. It's kind of got a funny shape, right? But this is like the holder, you know, that you can hold it on. And then you put the matcha into a bowl. I don't have a matcha bowl here, but then you just whisk it. You can whisk it in the bowl, but like, yeah, just put it into a bottle. I always tell beginners that, you know, like, you can take baby steps to invest in this stuff. Like, I mean, if you just really want to jump into it, hell yeah, do it. But, you know, like, again, we're trying to make a lifestyle change here. We're not trying to, like, jump into a fad and then, like, burn out on it and stop doing it after some time. Like, you want to continue and get more and more into it, like, gradually develop. You know, I always compare tea appreciation to video games, especially, like, MMO video game theory, like, video game design theory, is that, like, in MMO game theory, there are 4 types of personalities that the game designer is developing for. So you've got the explorer, the achiever, the what's the third one? Like the person that wants to, like, accomplish everything, like collect all the things and do all the things. I forget what that is. And then you got the killer, right? The killer is kind of funny. It's like, oh, who's the killer in tea? But I kind of like compare that to people. And as you get into tea and start meeting tea people in your community, or go to the fucking tea subreddit, right? So Reddit's got a tea subreddit. What's the dog doing? The dog is... he's hanging out. He's sleeping. He's sleeping. The Reddit tea subreddit is a great place to go understand the killers, because they're like the elitists that, like, want to correct everybody on you know, tea knowledge and all of that. But for, like, the explorers, which I think is like a big, you know, part of the community personality, and achieving, you know, like, you don't just, like, jump into a game and, like, have everything, you know, on the first time you play. Like, that ruins kind of the fun. That takes away some of the fun. You know what I mean? So, like, thinking of this as, like, playing a game, like a long-term game that you're going to be playing for a long time, that's the way I like to think about it. Oh, you drive a truck. Oh, that's great. Oh, matcha is so good for you if you're, you do, like, a long-haul truck driving. Yeah, matcha tea will be great. That would be so good for what you're doing. So yeah, the water bottle will work. And actually, if you use water that's just a little bit hot, it doesn't necessarily need to be boiling, but if it's just like 110 or 120 degrees, and you can shake it in, like, a steel or, like, a bottle that can hold heat, that's good too, because the temperature of the water will help dissolve the powder easier than just room temp. But you can use the room temp. You just, like, might have a couple little chunks in there, but that's okay. The chunks are great, especially with the matcha Midori. Like, it tastes really nice. You know, it's got a really, like, smooth, velvety texture to it. So even if you get the chunk, and you'll feel the energy right away. You'll feel it right away. Lalizig, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the emotes. 9 hours a day. Yeah, you definitely need some matcha. No wonder you were drinking Diet Coke. That makes sense. Or Diet Soda, whatever the soda was. You know what's kind of fun too? You could experiment with is like trying to put it into like carbonated water, because like if it's like the fizziness that you like, you can do that too. Like maybe make some in some still water, like make a really thick paste, and then you can put that into like a bottle of carbonated water and blend that together. So then it gives you kind of the bubbly texture, but then the flavor and the energy from the matcha. There's all kinds of things that you can do. You know, and something that's really popular right now is putting it in fucking beer. And like the fizziness from the beer will actually like blend it for you. They did that in Japan, and there's a couple of places in New York that's doing that. It's really popular. You know, you like put the matcha at the bottom of the mug, and as you pour the beer up, like the fizz from the beer will help blend it. Brian suggests it would be possible to use a very loose plastic or other wrap inserted in a jar and just keep pushing flat on the tea inside the jar, wrapped up and over the jar. Yeah, because you don't want it exposed to light. Light also degrades, you know, the value of the matcha. But if you buy the 250 gram bag, and I say the same thing to like the coffee shops that we work with that are like doing high volume. Oh, Bitcoin's back. The shops that are doing like high volume sales and service of matcha, I tell them like once a week they should open the 250 gram, like the big bag, and then put that into like a smaller airtight vessel, which then would be used for like the daily service. So they're not like opening and closing that main large container every day. Come here, baby. Come on, this side. Yeah. All right. I'm finally gonna start reading this article. It's good. You know, I'm happy to be distracted, man. There's no rules around here. You know, like I find these articles, and you know, really honestly, I just have them in case there's no one here talking to me. So then I have something to talk about the whole time. But it's been good. We've had a nice crowd here, a nice community. Thank you all so much for the wonderful questions and all the Bitcoin love. All Bitcoin's in for some cuddles. You want some cuddles? I do have a location in Las Vegas. If you ever drive through Vegas, please come by my tea room. Yeah, I'm in kind of Chinatown. You know, Chinatown's expanding right now. I'm at Desert Inn in Valley View. I've got a tea room here near Area 15, where the new Meow Wolf complex is located. Oh, Bitcoin. And you can meet Bitcoin. He hangs out here. You can meet him, get some matcha, or other teas. The whole thing. It's fun. We have a lot of fun here. All right, now I can't see the article. How am I supposed to see the article? He's like, I don't know. Not my problem. All right. Worldwide, 1.1 billion people have no access to any type of improved drinking source of water within 1 kilometer. 1.1 billion. So that's like 1/7 of our population in the world. It's a lot. Furthermore, only 42% of the people with access to water have a household connection or yard tap. So as a result, households in developing countries spend considerable amount of time fetching water. For example, it's estimated that a rural household in Western Kenya does around 7 water fetching trips per day, right? That's what I was talking about. I had that experience. So you really learn how to appreciate water when it's like that. And with each trip requiring a 20-minute walk on average. In urban Morocco, the setting of this study, households that rely on public taps spend more than 7 hours a week collecting water, despite the higher density of water taps. The time burden of water collection does not typically spare anyone in the household, but in many countries it is borne primarily by women and girls. Yes, at least where I was, I never saw the men one time go pump. I am in Vegas right now. Yep, I'm at my spot right now. So if you're in Vegas, I mean, maybe tomorrow, I do have a tasting event tomorrow, a private tasting event, but I have some hours available tomorrow if you want to. It's like appointment only. I'm not like a retail shop that's open all the time, and especially with the pandemic. Yeah, I'm in Vegas. You live in Vegas. Well, cool. Let's be tea friends. Yeah, don't. Well, you can order from the site, and then like on the checkout at shipping, you can put like Vegas curbside pickup or local pickup. But you know, now that oh, Bigfoot is so cute. Now that the pandemic is kind of lifting, I am starting to welcome people in for tastings and such. So yeah, get in touch with me. You can either you can PM me through Reddit, but my email is on the website. My email is there. Or if you look up Tlet in Google Maps, like the phone number and the email, you'll contact me through there. And you can set up a time to swing by for a tasting. Cheers. Awesome. Good to meet a fellow Vegas friend. I think a lot of people are fucking living in Vegas these days. Whew. The traffic, it is crazy now. Like, crazy. And then, like, most of the cars, the license plates are California plates. So, you know they're new to town. A lot of people living in Vegas now. This burden generates considerable stress and tension. For example, in Morocco, 66% of households without a water connection report that water is a major source of concern. 16% have had water-related conflict within the family, and 12% have had water-related conflict with their neighbors. I remember that. I remember water conflicts. The prime objective of connecting poor households to the drinking water network is usually to improve their physical health. Yet over and beyond its direct effect on physical health, improved water access could have important effects on household well-being. By reducing the time burden of water collection, it not only frees up time that could be spent on additional leisure or production, it also removes an important source of stress and tension. On the other hand, if women face restricted mobility besides their daily trips to the public water source, a home water connection could cut off an important source of opportunity to socialize and possibly reduce their well-being. That is a good point. That's a really good point. Okay, yeah, Tuesdays are better for me. But either day. Cool. So good to meet you. Okay, so Brian asked a good question, which, you know, I thought about that all the time, Brian, so I'm glad you asked that. He asked, in my experience in this kind of cultural environment with gathering water, are they hydrated enough? Not necessarily in a recommended modern so many ounces a day, but just in general. I don't think so, but I think the concept of hydration among different human communities around the world is very different, right? I mean, we have our idea. I don't even know who's the one that's established that we need to drink 8 cups of water a day. I don't know who established it. I drink much more than that. I like the mantra from Burning Man, you know, drink enough water so that your pee is clear. As long as you're peeing clear, you're good. But like, I was always confused because I was constantly like walking around with my water bottle when I was in the Peace Corps, and I was constantly needing to drink water. Like if I didn't have my water bottle, I would freak out. I'd have to go home and get water. And like my friends, they would only drink water like once a day. Like they would drink a lot of water in the morning when they would get up. And then throughout the day, they really wouldn't drink much water. And so they'd always make fun of me about my water bottle. So I think that like our body's adaptation to dehydration is very different from like our upbringing, our culture, because you know, if they're pooling water, they have access to water, even though they're pooling it and having to put that labor into pooling it, like they have access to it. And our body, just like this dumb dog here, I'm sorry I called you dumb, but you know, when it comes to his water consumption, it's pretty dumb because like he is afraid of his water bowl. He does not like to be around his water. He will not drink water until he's absolutely dehydrated, and then he drinks like a shit ton of water. So even in that case, like he will throw out his fear of water so that he can drink water because his body tells him I need the water. So I feel like people know what water they need to drink. You know what I mean? Even though like maybe they grew up with like a scarcity on it, or they grew up in a different environment, in a different culture, and so like their body's idea of hydration is a lot different than someone else's. That's interesting. Yeah, Brian, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think people know what they need to eat and drink. You put it in a good way. You say, here, we're hypersensitized to the amounts needed of everything, not just of water, but everything. You know, like, because we're not, like, present. We're not intimately connected to the things that we're consuming. Same thing with water. Like, water is just like, this abundant thing that we just take for granted here. Even though it's not fucking abundant. Like, it's a finite resource that we really shouldn't be having that mentality on. And it's ironic, right? That like when you have abundance of things, all of a sudden you need to like start monitoring your intake. Not for the sake of rationing, but for the sake of like I don't know, not consuming enough. Like, oh, you need to eat this many fruits and vegetables. I'll tell you what, the people that I was living with in Niger, if they had like an endless abundance of like fresh produce that they could just go to the store and get, kind of what we have as well, they would have no like food pyramid from the government telling them how many they need to eat. Like they would eat their body. They know they're present and intimately connected with what they need, and they would, you know, it's interesting. So we got a question. Is there some sort of qualification for tea? If you're asking about like qualification of like tea knowledge, similar to what you see in the wine world with like sommelier program, no, there's not. There's not like an internationally recognized like education program. Although there are several like independent ones that you could go get. I do a lot of tea education. I do not like issue any kind of certification because like before I do something like that, I would want it to be somehow recognized, somehow validated, that, you know, if you were to go into a workplace or if you were to go anywhere around the world, like there would be value attached to that certification, but there's not. So you just gotta drink tea. Like that's the best way to learn. Like some of these education programs cost like $8,000, $10,000. And to be honest, like I've done some of them. I've invested. Like when I first started studying tea, I did. Hey, Jen. All right, have a good rest tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We'll see you soon. We'll see you soon, Boomer. Much love. Come on, don't worry. The millennials are the new butts of the joke. Don't worry. We're the butt of the joke. All right, we got another good question here. Pu'er tea is amazing. You met a tea master in Malaysia. That's great. Yeah, pu'er tea is good. Pu'er tea is an American culture. It is here. It is here. I sell a lot of pu'er tea here in the U.S. Sheng and shu. The raw and the fermented. It's becoming more and more popular. My feedback though on the marketing of pu'er tea, which, you know, I'm now trying to do the work of like no penis jokes. All right, no penis jokes if that's what you're insinuating there, Mr. PP. No PP jokes. Hey PB, do you like pizza? Yeah, some of the education that I'm trying to reteach for UST merchants, UST shop owners, is that puer is it's just it's like the oldest style of tea, you know, so there is, you know, some importance to that. But there's not like a lot of the people that have like introduced puer, like the first pioneers that introduced puer into the US, kind of gave this false information that like it needs to be a certain way. Like, it needs to be aged for 30 years. It needs to be like super dark and rich. And it's like, as long as it's clean and good, you will feel a lot of chi from it. You will feel a lot of power from it. You know what tea I suggest for chilling out is a hemp flower. It's not a tea, it's a tisane. It's an herbal infusion. But I sell some on my website. There's not a lot of people that sell it, but it's just organic hemp flower. You can go to that link there, teaandhispeople.com. It's called Golden Sun. Here, I'll show it to you. I got some in here. It smells just like cannabis. It's hemp flower. It's really good. Yeah, weed. It's like weed. But it has no THC in it. And you brew it, you can brew it just like a tea, and it's really only gonna like release the terpenes from it. Like, it does give like your whole body like this really subtle, like comforting, like anti-anxiety feeling. Maybe not like CBD medicine, like medicinal grade CBD products that you can buy. It's a lot more subtle. And then like if you are a cannabis connoisseur, if you like to smoke weed and you like to try different things, it's really fun to taste it when it's brewed, because then you can like taste all the subtleties from it. So PP, you like pizza? Maybe you like pizza? Pizza D's in your mouth. All right. No penis jokes here. And only I'm allowed to say the D's jokes, because it's not sexualized. I don't like sexualization of things, including me, especially me. If you sexualize me, you are out. Like, no negotiation about it. You're out. You're banned. But we can have fun. We can talk about sex. Actually, a couple weeks ago, I did a stream about fertility, and we talked in great detail about sex and fertility, but did not sexualize a single thing. It was great. It was awesome. You know, we need to do that more often. Yeah, you can get it from my website. I sell it on my website. It's called Golden Sun. teaandhispeople.com. Bitcoin, you tell them where it's at? teaandhispeople.com. Oh, that sounds good. Spicy. Spicing up your weed, spicing up your rips there, huh? With the cinnamon tea. The first order effects of access to clean water. Oh, Brian, yeah, I look forward to hearing your story. Feel free to message me, and or maybe we should have a phone call. We haven't chatted in a long time. The first order effects of access to clean water on health, even in cities, has been amply demonstrated. Given these first order effects, it is difficult in most settings to separate the effects of clean water due to the reduced burden of water collection from the effects due to health. This paper uses a randomized design to study the non-health effects of easier access to in-home water connections on poor urban households in Morocco. I have tried kava. I'm not a big fan of kava. I'm not a big fan of it. Neither is Bitcoin. I don't like that like fuzzy numbing feeling. And I actually get that same feeling to a lesser degree from chrysanthemum. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that feeling. You're under attack by the dog, right? That's funny. Yeah, with him in the foreground, it makes it pretty awesome. Because households are our sample already had access to clean water from a public tap, household connections did not lead to improvements in water quality, allowing us to identify the specific effect of a reduced water collection burden on time, use, social integration, and mental well-being. We find considerable improvement in all of these dimensions without any change in the incidence of waterborne diseases, despite an apparent increase in the quantity of water consumed. So there you go. There's an answer, Brian, to your question. Yeah, so the scarcity and the like culture of water collection does affect the quantity you consume, which, you know, in effect is going to affect your dehydration. And then, you know, other things related to that, such as infant mortality and all of that. This suggests that the time and resources spent on water collection substantially reduce welfare of poor households, a finding consistent with their high willingness to pay for a household connection. We work in collaboration with Amendus, the local affiliate of Veolia Environment, an international private utility. Oh, Bitcoin. Yes, he's a silly boy. He is a silly. Oh, tree dog. I like that. That's Bitcoin. Like he's doing a little yoga over here now too. Doing a little yoga. Can you sit? Please? Sit. Sit down. Sit. Okay. An international private utility company which operates the electrical and wastewater collection networks as well as the drinking water distribution in Tangiers, Morocco. In 2007, they launched a social program to increase household direct access to piped water. As of the end of 2007, approximately 845 low-income households living in on-the-grid neighborhoods of Tangiers did not have a household water connection because they could not afford the connection fee. Before getting a connection, all these households had free access to public taps installed in their neighborhood, and they had access to sanitation at their house. The program provided an interest-free loan to cover the cost of the water connection, which was not subsidized on average. The loan was to be repaid in regular installments with the water bill over 3 to 7 years. Could you imagine that if like water was such a valuable utility for your family that you were willing to pay back for it for 7 years? I mean, that says a lot. Yeah, the issue is maybe not plentiful. Maybe the source is plentiful and clean, but if you're having to collect it, you know, the resources of collecting your water. You know, like in the village that I lived in, the well in the village that everybody used was like a quarter mile away from the village. So, not only do you have to go pull the water from 80-foot deep well and then carry the bucket on your head, you get to walk there and back, a quarter mile each way. So, I think that's where the concept of scarcity comes into it. It's like, I think that well, for me, that well, even though we were in the middle of the friggin' desert, it felt plentiful. Like, I never felt like the well was gonna dry out. But wells certainly do dry out, and that's why they have to go make a new well somewhere else. Pickle, come on. But I think it's more of an issue of the effort, the time, the resources that the family has to invest. Bitcoin, are you showing off your privates? Are you showing your privates? Yes, those are the traditional Assamese scarves, yes. Oh, you know about them. Great. Are you from Assam? Are you from India? You know about that? Bitcoin, come on. Move out of the way. You're showing off your private parts to Reddit. That's so indecent. Come on. Move. Where are you going to go? Okay, you're just going to sit in front of it. Okay, that's fine. At least you don't have your privates showing. We conducted a door-to-door awareness and facilitation campaign in early 2008 among 434 households, randomly chosen from 845 that were eligible for a connection on credit. Those households received information about the credit offer as well as help on the administrative procedures needed to apply for the credit and the water connection. Specifically, all the necessary paperwork was photographed in their house and brought to the municipal office for bulk approval. The remaining households were eligible to apply for a connection on credit. 60% of households in the treatment group had purchased a connection, and as a result, their average monthly water bill doubled from about US $11 to $21. You're from Assam? That's great. Oh, that's great. We have two people from Assam, or these, sir, you just trolling? Well, awesome. Awesome, Assam. I love Assam. I should be there right now, actually. I'm supposed to be there right now, but I had to cancel my trip because, yeah, because Bitcoin didn't want me to go. Yeah, that's the reason why. Bitcoin didn't want me to go. He hates it when I travel. But yeah, I spend a lot of time in Assam, which is where I got all the towels. Oh, but you're in Mumbai now? How was everything in Mumbai? I was supposed to fly into Mumbai and then fly to Dibrugarh after that. But it was heavily advised by all of my partners there that I shouldn't come. Oh, Bitcoin, you silly boy. You silly. Are you ready to sit down? Yeah, it is really beautiful there. Go to the Brahmaputra, see the big bridge there. You know where else is really beautiful? That's close to Assam that I visited is Arunachal Pradesh. Really beautiful. Mountainous, beautiful area. Assam is a lot more flatland. A lot of tea growing there. Just stop. Have a seat. Sit down. Sit down. Thank you. The quality of water was unchanged since public taps are also maintained by the same organization. There was, however, a large increase in the quantity of water consumed, which some would argue could be as important for health as water quality. Yeah, I've been to Assam several times. That's where I got all of those. You know, when you visit like a household or a business, they usually offer that as like a token of welcome. Collected a lot of things like that over the years. I run a B2B marketplace for independent tea farmers. So I work with a lot of tea farmers around the world. All right, Bitcoin, I'm gonna have to hold you because you're really starting to get on my nerves now. You're really starting to get on my nerves. So Brian says, true. It is an interesting idea. Body is so resilient too and will adjust within reason. Culturally as well, I really wonder if the body has a seasonal storage memory. Utilize hydration from all sources when available, water fruit plants, and pull from internal or go into cellular caution mode when not in season or as available. I think that's true. Yeah, Brian, definitely. Definitely that's true. But then once you start getting access, like this article is talking about, once you start getting like regular access to piped water to your household, you know, all these things kind of go out the window and become irrelevant. You know, the seasonality of abundance. Because it's always abundant. It's always readily available. All right, Bitcoin, I'm going to let you go down. Say goodbye to everybody. Say goodbye. I love you. I love you all. He needs to go take a nap, but he's getting restless. Go drink your water. Your water's right over there, boy. This confirms the meta-analysis arguing that water quantity may not, after all, matter for child health. Oh wait, no, it says here. Okay, so I missed an important area of this article. Despite the change or the increase in water quantity, we find no change in the incidence of waterborne diseases such as child diarrhea. This confirms the meta-analysis, arguing that water quantity may not, after all, matter for child health. So that's it, Brian. I think that's it. Like, our bodies adapt to the quantity, you know, and diarrhea is probably much more associated with the quality of the water, more so than the quantity. That's a good idea. So Brian says this. Reddit, what do you guys think of this, or what do you all think of this? I think our overabundance has made our bodies soft and not very resilient. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in India. I'm supposed to be there right now, but I had to cancel my trip because of the pandemic. And then plus, if I would have gone, like immediately when I landed, I would have like had to get on a plane right back to the U.S. because like a few days after I left the U.S., or I would have left the U.S., they announced that the U.S. is not going to allow people to come from India. So I would have like had to like turn back around and gone right back, or you know, just stay in India, which doesn't really work for my business and my day-to-day. So yeah, glad I canceled that. In contrast, the connection generated important time gains. These time gains did not lead to increases in labor market participation, income, or schooling attainment. Rather, the spared time was used for leisure and socializing. They're talking about like the free time that you get when you don't have to go and collect the water under the bucket and bring it home. The private connection reduced the risk of conflict or ill feelings towards neighbors. So we can be more civilized when we have a sustained, solid source of water piped into our houses. Overall, despite the financial costs, we observe that households' reported well-being improves substantially when they get connected to the water system. These results echo those showing that a program in Mexico replacing dirt floors with cement floors significantly improved adult welfare, as measured by increased satisfaction with their housing and quality of life. However, they find that cement floors also improve child health, and they hypothesize that may be a source of the increase in happiness. So, yeah, I guess there's something to be said about not living on dirt. I'll tell you a funny story about when I lived on dirt, when I was in the Peace Corps. I lived in a mud hut. Everybody lived in a mud hut. And the mud hut had not dirt floors on the inside. It had cement floors on the inside. So you could actually keep those clean. But in the outdoor area, there's a fenced in area outside of your house, a private little area. And that's actually where you spent most of your time because it was too freaking hot to be inside the hut in the middle of the day. So you'd hang out outside. And you had a place to sit. You'd have chairs, a place to sit, your water sort, you had a water jug that was buried in the ground, and your latrine was out there, so you would just hang out outside. And there was a bunch of dirt there, a bunch of sand, a thick layer of sand, about that thick. And I thought that was dirty. I thought that was bad. And so when I first moved in, I put in so much effort. I remember one of the first mornings that I was there, I spent 3 hours sweeping up all of this sand, all of this dirt that was inside my concession, and then just throwing it over the wall until it was nothing. I felt so proud of myself. I'm oh, it's all clean here. Now, when I walk around barefoot, I don't feel I'm getting dirt all over my feet. And my neighbor came to visit me to check on me, and she says, oh, where's all the sand? And I said, no, I cleaned up. She was very upset, right? But, then some other people came and informed me that the sand plays a key role in keeping the area cooler. Because it holds temperature from the nighttime whenever it's not beating the sun. It cools down, and it maintains that coolness in the area. So they had all the kids shovel up all of the sand that I had thrown out and throw it back into my place. Oh man, all the stupid things. There were so many stupid things that I did. I was just oh, okay, I get it now. And it still happens to this day. That kind of shit still happens. Yeah, raw meat. I never had raw meat there, but I certainly had cured meats. And those were damn good. Probably the best, jerky, because they would put so much chili on it. Oh, it's so tasty. So tasty. Yeah, I was the butt of so many jokes after I lived there for a while. My name was Aisha too, Aisha, which is a Muslim name. But, they can't say Elise. Elise is my born name. They couldn't say that. It wasn't in their vocabulary. And, in the Peace Corps, rather than them having us, teach everybody how to say our name, they would have our host family name us. And I was given the name Aisha. It only took a few weeks for the people in the village I lived in to start calling me Aisha, my Y-O, which means Aisha the wise, which is not wise is more smart ass type wise, clever. Because I was always up to something. Hey Night Sky, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Thanks for saying hello. Welcome to the stream. We're talking about water. We are talking about the great privilege it is to have access to water and how we shouldn't take it for granted, because Some people don't even have access, like at all, to water, clean water. 1.3 billion people in the world. And then of the people that do have access, only a little bit over half have it piped directly to the house. The rest of them have to go collect it, which is fine. I lived like that for a couple of years. It's livable. It's just your life is different, but you definitely learn to appreciate it. Yeah, drink more water. Please, please, please go get yourself a cup of water, bottle, whatever you prefer. Yeah, and hang out with us while we learn more about water. So they were testing whether, the increase of people connecting the water to their homes is attributed to social diffusion effects. We exploit the random variation in the density of households sampled for the encouragement treatment. Among control households that had at least one other study household within 20 meters of their house, holding the number of study households within the radius constant, we find that those who had at least one treatment household within 20 meters were 18% points more likely to have brought a water connection by August 2009 than those who did not have any treatment households within 20 meters. This difference is significant at the 5% level and suggests important social diffusion effects. Overall, our results suggest that, at least in the Moroccan context, households have a relatively large willingness to pay for the convenience of water connection at home. This is particularly interesting in light of the recent evidence from randomized experiments in Zambia and Kenya suggesting that the willingness to pay for water quality in terms of money spent on chlorine or extra time spent collecting water is relatively low. In contrast, households seem to be willing to pay a lot for quantity and ease of access. Yeah. So we value abundance. So let me just get to the collection. This is a pretty long paper that shows all of their methodology, experimentation. Scroll down to the conclusion. After 6 months, the investment turned out to have significant private returns. While it freed up a lot of time for household members, it did not generate increases in labor market participation and income, but it led to important improvements in quality of life and welfare. In particular, it increased reported happiness and social integration. While the private returns are high, the public health impacts seem low, if not non-existent. In the study context, household connections do not reduce the incidence of waterborne diseases compared to the existing system of public taps. This lack of health effects suggests that investing public funding and expanding access to household connections might not be justified from a public finance standpoint. However, the high private returns and high observed willingness to pay suggests that relaxing credit constraints for poor households and making credit access straightforward and transparent might be sufficient to generate important private investments in water connections. These findings have some relevance for the debate on whether investment in water infrastructure should focus on providing safe, shared drinking water sources or whether providing individual access is important. Most experts conclude that it is not cost-effective to individually connect all households to water. Previous studies have found very low willingness to pay for water purity, either in money, purchase of chlorine, or time, walking to an approved source. Part of the public investments in improving drinking water quality may thus be lost if households are left to walk the last mile, because they may simply not walk it. In our setting, all the public sources of water are clean, but in another study where only some sources are improved, few households appear to switch source for most of the water needs. Our results, which reveal an important willingness to pay for access to water, suggest that offering households the option to pay all or part of the marginal costs to be individually connected with easy, affordable credit may actually be a way to increase the rate of returns on a public investment. So it's important, having water in our house, having running water in our homes is super important. So cheers to that. Cheers. So I found another paper, kind of similar, titled Water for Life, the Impact of the Privatization of Water Services on Child Mortality. So this is like looking not so much as like overall happiness and productivity of the family, but looking specifically at infant mortality. Let me just read this. While most countries are committed to increasing access to safe water and thereby reducing child mortality, there is little consensus on how to actually improve water services. One important proposal under discussion is whether to privatize water provision. In the 1990s, Argentina embarked on one of the largest privatization campaigns in the world, including the privatization of local water companies covering approximately 30% of the country's municipalities. Using the variation in ownership of water provision across time and space generated by the privatization process, we find that child mortality fell 8% in the areas that privatized their water services, and that the effect was largest at 26% in the poorest areas. We checked the robustness of these estimates using cause-specific mortality. While privatization is associated with significant reduction in deaths from infectious and parasitic diseases, it is uncorrelated with deaths from causes unrelated to water conditions. All right, Lee. Yeah, I do think it's worth it. I do think the kettles that have like the water temp control, I have one. I use the Bonavita kettle. I'll show you. See it? That's my kettle right there. And you see the little red lights there. That's the temp. It's heating up right now. It's a good kettle. That's the one I recommend. I've been using this particular Bonavita for like 8 years now. I'm a big fan. I recommend it a lot. I've never had one break on me. They're pricey, but you know, like once a year, the company will run a promotion across all the different like e-commerce platforms that they sell on, including like Walmart and Amazon. And they sell it for like half the price. So usually this 1.7 liter one is, I think it's usually like $120, $130. You can get it for like $60 or $70. It's a good deal. Yeah, you should get one. Oh dear. That is a question. Brian, I got a question for you if you're still here. Someone on Reddit just asked, who would win in a thumb wrestling match between a tea expert and a coffee expert? Damn. That's a tough one because like I would say that the coffee expert more than likely is going to be a lot more on the masculine side, while a tea expert is going to be a lot more on the feminine side, right? So there's that, right? And you can make that immediate bias. But along with the feminine versus the masculine energy comes, and then also what comes with the tea, caffeine versus caffeine with theanine is like this clever, this clever element that the tea expert would have. So, but the thing with thumb wrestling, I don't thumb wrestle a lot. I'm not a thumb wrestling expert. I hardly do it. I think when I was a kid I did a couple of times. But I don't think that there's a lot of room for like strategy. Right? It's like kind of a brute force type of a game, right? I don't know. What do you think? But to be honest, like tea people are not nearly as competitive as coffee people, or you know, the experts, the professionals that I've met in the industry. So yeah, it's a interesting question. I guess Brian's not here anymore. He would have answered that. He would have had a fast answer. The tag team. Are you allowed to tag team in, you know? Because yeah, tea experts, they have friends all over the world, you know? They have influence and friends all over the world. You know, I think coffee experts are not as ubiquitous. So, I don't know. Oh, you know, nice Shang. Awesome. Where was it from? Like, which mountain? I am drinking a Second Flush Darjeeling. It's kind of a broken grade from 2018. Really nice tea. Very enjoyable tea to drink. But we're talking about water. I'm in the middle of reading some articles talking about the impact of water access to human happiness. And my favorite tea is shaded green teas from Japan. Although it's not like a daily drinker type of tea for me. But, you know, it's a special, you know, I reserve it for special occasions when I'm really looking for that experience. As well as the energy from it, you know, because the energetics from shaded green teas is quite high. So that would be like gyokuro or matcha, but specifically gyokuro from Yame. And the reason it's unique is that it's Yame is the highest elevation growing region of Japan, and where elevation plays into quality of the tea, and it's not like an absolute rule of thumb, but it's something to consider. When you're at higher elevations, your temperature swings from day to night are a lot more expansive than when you're a more mild climate. The tea doesn't get stressed as much, and you know, it's kind of sad to say, but stressing out the tea plant brings out more sweetness. You know, and a lot of people say that about humans too, just your whole experience, that, you know, when you suffer or when you go through trials like the hero's journey, you become wiser, you become, you know, better, whatever you want to call it. So same thing applies to tea, and I think a lot of agriculture products as well. There's a lot of commonality between that. So when the temperature swings from like really hot during the day because the higher elevation closer to the sun, but then at nighttime the temperature drops cooler, you know, that's putting stress on the plant. I do work with tea. I work with a lot of tea. I run a B2B technology platform for transparency in the supply chain of the tea industry. So I work with dozens of independent family-owned tea farmers around the world. I import their tea in bulk, and then I market and distribute it to small to medium-sized tea businesses. So before studying tea, I studied food. I'm a food scientist. I'm very passionate about food, very passionate about processing of food, cooking of food, but it wasn't until I joined the Peace Corps that I started to really really started to understand the connection between agriculture and food. But that's kind of a fucked up thing about our food system, is that we silo everything. So when I studied food science, we all knew that food, comes from plants that are in the soil, but we never studied any of that. We never interacted with any of the agronomy students, or we never studied with any of them. We just focused on the what's called post-harvest processing, which is great to know too. I'm grateful for that. I never about what part, Jesse? What part did I not tell you about? But I started studying tea about 12 years ago, and I've been running this particular business for about 10 years now. And I got a warehouse in Las Vegas, Nevada, as well as a tea room, and now a streaming studio. So I do streaming on the internet through several different channels, but I do suggest our Twitch channel. And then if you want to learn about my business and see the stories of the farmers and see all the different teas that we work with, you can visit that website. Your dot key got pushed down. I don't see any dots though, Jesse. Your friend's studying environmental agriculture. That's very cool. Yeah, I'm a food scientist. I'm a CEO. Yep. Yeah. I'm sorry I never let you know that, Jesse. I am a CEO of an international venture-backed corporation. Evil corporation. No, not at all. I really feel like the corporation, and I only came to this assessment after doing international development work, after doing the Peace Corps, and oh, I see. I totally do not see the dots above the oops. I don't see that at all. You must have deleted the comment or something. I don't see it. No, not evil. I was just joking. But in all of my travels around the world, working with rural communities, working with government and non-government organizations, I realized that the corporation is a very powerful man-made institution that if operated with the right intention, and the right intention is just with love, with love and understanding and empathy. It can be actually a very powerful tool for bringing happiness to the world. People always badmouth the corporation itself or the capitalism. That's been a cover-all word for the evil plight in the world, and it's simply not that. It's not that. It's the intention behind it. It is the commodified intention that allows for the externalization of costs, and those costs are environmental costs, they're social costs, they're economic costs, to people that usually just get swept under the rug, and environments that get swept under the rug. And so it's that lack of transparency that's allowed that intention to take over the corporate tools, the corporate power. And so when I, finished my MBA and I finished my Peace Corps work, and I had to decide what I was going to do, a lot of people in my shoes would have usually chosen to start a nonprofit or work in the nonprofit world. And I really felt like, what? No, I want to build a corporation, an international powerful corporation, and prove that it is possible, that if built with the foundation of transparency, of equity, of empowerment, mobilization, not only will like it prove that like corporations could make good ideas, but like that's the way to make a powerful corporation. And not just a powerful corporation that's going to have power and influence in this lifetime, but one that's going to have power and influence for future lifetimes, which is interesting. When I was in my MBA program, which is a master's in business administration, that was like an ideal. And all of the like case studies that, we had to read and then discuss in class, that seemed to be the ideal. They called it legacy business. They call it legacy business, where like CEOs and founders of companies are not just trying to make like a quick cash out, but they're actually trying to make a business that they can pass on to their children, who can pass on to their children. But in this day and age, the fascination and the chip that we all have on our shoulders, every single one of us has this chip on our shoulders, including the poor people, especially the poor people, that being poor or not having as much property makes us less human. And that's just wrong. Like I'm sure everybody that's here will disagree with that statement, but our actions prove differently, Just like Walmart that sold you that charger that doesn't work. Walmart, like they didn't care about your satisfaction. They just cared about selling and selling more of it, So yeah. That's deep. Someone on Reddit says too complex for someone to take responsibility for. You're right. And that's interesting that you say that, because that's something that like I've been having personal internalization about, is that I take on too much responsibility for problems that aren't directly mine. But then at the same time, like, if I do try to put my head down and focus on problems that are mine, I end up coming to the same conclusion, right? That like, I don't know where you can find honeybush. I don't deal in honeybush. I deal in tea from the Camellia sinensis plant. But yeah, if I really put my head down and say, okay, so forget about all those other responsibilities. Let me just focus on what's important for my responsibilities. That involves a family, right? And future generations. Similar to this like legacy business idea. And I've seen too much around the world to not come back to that same responsibility. And I constantly have this kind of conflict with my family, because they believe that I'm too focused on other people's problems. And they say, hey, you just should focus on your own family. I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to focus on my own family. Okay, let me do it. Focus on my own family. It's like, oh, damn it. How do I know there's going to be, like, water available to them? How do I know there's going to be food available to them? How do I know that there's going to be, like, a hospitable home for them? Unless there's, like, a healthy global community to support that. So, and nonprofits and that work I was doing, that was futile. I learned that real quick. That was futile. I would have spent my entire lifetime working, fighting, and it wouldn't have like really made an impact. And I knew that. And I said, you know what? The corporation is a powerful human tool. It is actually the most powerful, longest running, even more than any other government in history. Corporations are stronger. But, as long as the corporations continue to run the way that they're running with the same concept of externalized costs, you'll never make a change on that. So, I know I took on a big responsibility, but fuck it. What else am I going to do? That's funny. Yeah, Brian agrees. He says, in interesting, I'm always led back to a tea in my cup and then back outward. Yeah, we had a discussion about this at Tea Talks yesterday in the virtual tea room, where somebody was talking about their personality, where they're like super honed in on details and can often like lose sight of big picture. But yeah, I cannot. I can focus in on a detail, but as soon as I focus in on the detail, the big picture comes right back in. And yeah, I can't help from doing that. Wow, I can't believe I've been on for 3 hours. This has been fun. It's been a lot of fun. Met a lot of really great friends. Thank you, Reddit, for the great company today. Bitcoin says thank you too. He's ready to go home, though he wants to eat his dinner. He ate earlier, but he's looking at me saying, I want to eat a little bit more. So we'll get home and do that. We'll relax. Maybe I'll watch this water documentary. Our friend on Twitch recommended this documentary. Oh, can I plug my website? Yeah, sure. So my main website, my main business is tealet.com. T-E-A-L-E-T. Simple. But if you are looking to buy tea just as a consumer, you want to learn about tea, I have like all of our content, our videos is at this website. And this is like, all of the information is available at this website. The tealet.com website is our wholesale. So you have to like qualify for a wholesale account. You have to apply and qualify to get access to the information there. So it's not as information rich, tealet.com. So that's why I made this website. teaanditspeople.com. Yeah, maybe I could, now that I'm not. I don't like to plug too much, because I'm trying to just educate and have fun here with y'all. But yeah, I put the link in the comment in the chat. Hey Brian, we got a good question. I think you're back. You missed it. The elevator pitch on tea. Well, tea is great. Tea is the second most consumed beverage after water in the world. It comes originally from China. It has now expanded all over the world. Tea has caffeine and also L-theanine, which changes the caffeine's reaction in the body to have mental focus, body relaxation. For most of the 5,000-year history of tea, it was exclusively produced and consumed by monks. It was only within the past 300 or so years that tea has become a great blessing and privilege for all the world to enjoy. Please drink more tea. Was that good? Brian says, reading, programming, woods, or a cup of tea in my head grounds and helps you focus on a single detail. That's true. Yeah. That's the L-theanine. The L-theanine is what helps. Yeah. I stream to Reddit on Friday nights. But all the rest of the week, I stream to Twitch. You can go to tealet.tv, or you can go follow our channel here, tealet. And I do all kinds of cool content there. It's all tea. I stream from my tea table, so you can always ask questions about tea. But on Mondays, I talk about dignified hospitality. Tuesdays, I do gaming. So I've started to play a tea garden simulator game. On Wednesdays, I do a Constitution study group. On Thursdays, we have an interactive tea party in a virtual tea house that everyone is invited to, so you are welcome to come. Brian, you like the pitch? That was on the fly. I've never like pitched tea like that. It's always like pitch your business, but that was a good one. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out. I'm stoked. Like Reddit was awesome today. Sometimes it's hit or miss with the Reddit community, but it was really great to make so many friends. And I made a friend that lives right here in Las Vegas. And by the way, if you ever visit Las Vegas, which I know a lot of people are doing right now because we are like the COVID-friendly destination of the country right now. Come to Vegas for a vacation. Visit Meow Wolf, which is a cool interactive art installation. It's right next door to my tea room. So you can go to Meow Wolf, you can come over, have some tea with me. If we get super friendly with each other, maybe we can go down the street. Oh, Reddit cut me off. We can go down the street and eat some Chinese food. Wow, we had 1,000 people. Brian, 1,000 people came onto Reddit. Can you believe that? 1,000 people to hear me talk about water. Incredible. That was so good. I'm very grateful. All right, Twitch. Who's here? Who's here with us? That was loud. That was loud. Let me see who's here with us, and then yeah, we can go visit a friend. Oh, Jessie's still here. Jessie, where should we go? Oh, T-Fence? And she's playing music? What is this? What are all these people doing on so late? Grandmaster Ong? Oh, and he's flowing, he's juggling. I don't get to raid him too often because he usually streams earlier in the day. So yeah, let's go get Grandmaster Ong, say hello to him. Oh yeah, cooking is definitely a focus thing. Not about to win, but let's go watch him juggle. Give him some tea love. Thank you for hanging out tonight. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, drinks lots of water, appreciates all the water, and rest well. I'll see you on Monday.